Good morning, Safi. Welcome to SED Talks, your Safi Employee Development Talks, the one and only podcast brought to you by Safi and your OD&R department. I am your host, as always, Robert Smith, welcoming you. Today we're going to talk about a good one, guys. Though we don't talk about a good one all the time, but this one's pretty good. Building trust, credibility, and respect as a leader. Whether it's with your coworkers, your peers, your staff, or just people in your life in general. That's right. You get to take this one home with you. You can be a better person. In my career, I've seen thousands probably of employee satisfaction surveys, organizational surveys. Almost all of them have a section on there about rating your leadership and seeing what the employee thinks of leaders of the organization. And it's an important factor because most employees will say that it's what the leaders are saying and doing that has the most impact on the perception of your organization. And when you really think about that, that makes a lot of sense because they are, in essence, the face of the company. So the things that they say and do have ramifications throughout the organization, no doubt. But as leaders, what do we do to improve that? The first step has to be recognizing that that is a thing. Recognizing that employees do look to you for trust and credibility in your actions, and you have to accept that. You also have to understand that it takes time, and it does take a lot of hard work to get to that point. Certain positions certainly have a limited amount of respect and trust that are attached to them. If you become the president of the United States, there's a level of trust and respect that's attached to that title. If you're a police officer, if you're a judge, if you're, a CEO of a company, some of those titles have a limited amount of respect and trust that's attached to it, but the person behind the badge, the person that's behind the title, they don't necessarily get that same respect and trust attached to them just because they have that position. They still need to earn it. They need to be able to do what they can to get to that same level. So what do we do as leaders to do that? The biggest step is to just be honest and be supportive of your peeps. Are there situations where it's easier to tell people what they want to hear? Absolutely. However, as we learned in Star Wars, the easier path is often the path to the dark side. It is almost always easier to tell people what they want to hear, but by being honest from the start, you're going to earn those benefits more in the long run. So we've all heard the cliches, we've all heard the adages of, it takes two lies to cover an original lie. Focus on the marathon, not the sprint, custard and fish sticks, things like that. I'm a big believer in all those, but the one I'll use is the Band-Aid. So can you solve a problem now, immediately, tunnel vision, by telling somebody what they want to hear? Usually, yes, absolutely. However, there is a good chance that that Band-Aid that I just put on will get ripped off and the wound will open back up and I'll have to put another Band-Aid on and another Band-Aid on and another Band-Aid on. The reason being I'm not taking care of the wound, the underlying cause of what's causing the wound. So looking at the long run, looking at the big picture, what can I do to fix that? And often the answer is just being honest from the start. Being honest, being consistent with that honesty and seeing it through to the end is going to leave less of a scar when that wound finally heals than if you had to do the 37 Band-Aids throughout the way. So just food for thought on that. And a lot of that focuses on the words that we're using. And I'm by no means saying that the words aren't important. Actions are good, but words are necessary as well. They're clearly important, but they're inherently hollow if you're not following up with corresponding actions. And what I mean by corresponding, let me kind of use an example. Right now, we're in the middle of the political game here in America. So let's look at politics. You are on the campaign trail for months, sometimes years. And during that time, you're making promises to anybody and everybody that you meet. And sometimes those promises contradict each other, but we won't go down to that level. Just follow me on this one. So you're making these promises, and you're saying, if I'm elected as your leader, I'm going to find the cure for the common cold. And that's a good promise. A better one would be, cure cancer, cure AIDS, things like that. But you have to worry about the reelection too. So you got to save the big guy for the reelection. So we'll start with the common cold. If I'm elected, I'm going to find the cure for the common cold. And everybody goes, yay! And your approval rates go through the roof. People flock behind you, and they're ready to do anything they can to make you win, make you successful, because you are their leader, and they see you as the person that, if I do my hard work and I get them to go to these new heights, when they get there, they're going to take care of me because those are the promises that they made. That's fine. However, and we see this probably all too often in politics, once somebody's elected, things happen. And what are these things? It's a lot of things. These things could be intended or not. Maybe you never had any intention to cure the common cold, but you're just telling people that so that you can get elected. Maybe the other party doesn't want the cure for the common cold because they're taking, lobby money for the, big common cold. I don't know if that's a thing. We'll run with it. But regardless of what happens, the promises don't come true. Whether it was intentionally misleading, unforeseen factors, whatever it may have been, it didn't come true. And regardless of what the reasoning behind it is, the perception of the people that you promised is that you failed. You were the leader, and what you said didn't come true, so therefore you were a failure. Fair or not, that's kind of the burden that you take upon yourself as a leader. Your approval ratings plummet. You don't get reelected. And now not only do we not have a cure for the common cold, but since you didn't get reelected, now we'll never get the cure for those nastier things. So moral of the story is make sure that you're following up on what you're saying. It's important, very important. But the flip side of it is make sure that you're only saying the things that you can actually follow up on. So don't make promises that you can't or don't intend to keep, because people will remember them, and they will be the first to remind you when you don't hit those. So keep in mind, if you're making promises, think of the time and effort that it's going to take to make those promises come true. Following up on things, it can be easier said than done. It's very easy to fall into the cliche of do as I say, not as I do. We've all heard that one. But we live in the information age. The internet exists. Social media exists. And both your professional and personal lives are blasted throughout social media. Or in general, just people talking. People know more people now than they did. I have 1,000 friends on Facebook. I don't have 1,000 friends in real life, but I have 1,000 friends on Facebook. Scrutiny's at an all-time high. We're seeing scandals and information come out that we never would have had 10, 15, even 5 years ago. So it's going to take an effort by yourself to check at all times and make sure that you're you're doing what you said you were going to do, that you're actually living out the promises that you said, and that you're letting your actions speak, not just your words. And that's going to build that trust and credibility. That is absolutely crucial. Some of the things that I do to make sure that I'm staying on point is I make a list. I write it down. I revisit it often. I give updates as needed. But it's actually a twofold plan, because not only is that keeping me informed on what I have to do, it's a reminder for myself, but it also lets the people that it impacts know what's going on, and they stay updated. And it's showing them that I'm actually putting my actions into word, or putting actions behind my words, I should say. Twofold part of it for me, it's also a help when you're a procrastinator. I am a bit of one. I'm discovering a little bit more than normal as I get a little bit older. But keeping that task and that goal in the light, and keeping it fresh in the mind of your customers, it's giving that procrastinator. And again, I am one. I'll tell you why later. Get it? Accountability is being kept up. But yeah, follow these couple things, or you can have your own unique system. Everybody's an individual. Everybody has their own ways of doing things. Whatever works best for you, just make sure that what it is, you know what you're doing, and you know what you're saying, and you're making sure that those two things are meeting as much as possible. And if you do that over the long run, people are going to respect you, and people are going to trust you, and it's going to gain your credibility, because not only are you saying you're going to do things, but you're actually doing them, and you're staying consistent with them. And that's huge in leadership. So I will get off my soapbox for now, guys. We're running a little bit long today. But I want to thank you for your time. As always, check us out. Check out the news feed on the SEW for updates. Always look out for those new podcasts and all those crazy, crazy cool things coming from your OD&R department and everybody here at SAFI. But until we meet again, please remember, laugh, love, live. But as always, take time to enjoy your moment of Zen.